Hello, and welcome to Behavior Bits for July 2020. I'm Tara Yarberry, and I'm a board certified behavior analyst with Butte County SELPA. So, today we're going to talk about motivating operations or motivation. So, motivation is huge when we want to see behavior change or when we want to do much of anything. And actually, at the end of this, there's a cool TED Talk on grit, which is talking about motivation and persistence. And so when we're passionate about something and we're persistent with it, we can often do things that we're not sort of naturally inclined to be good at, or things that we were sort of born having a talent for. But you can get there and get really far in your ambitions with grit. So I highly recommend you check that out. But motivating operations are kind of twofold. There's either you're motivated to do stuff, which is establishing operations, or you're motivated to not do stuff, which is abolishing operations. And so let's think. If I am in here and right now I'm not really that motivated to put a sweater on because it's warm, my body feels great. It's a good temperature. So I'm not really don't have that motivation to do that. But maybe if the temperature changed, then I might have that motivation change and I might establish an operation of motivation that is leading me to want to put a sweater on or something like that. So yeah, I've got super cold. All of a sudden my motivation would change, right? So how do we enrich environments for people so that their wants and needs are met? And so hopefully they don't feel the need to engage in behaviors that might be maladaptive or less socially acceptable in order to meet those wants and needs. And one strategy that we use a lot and that school systems have been adopting more and more in their multi-tiered systems of support, like PBIS, they might adopt at tier one, these enriched environments. We're going to infuse our school environment with conditions, like we're going to post rules and make it be really clear to everybody. We're going to put people, friendly people that students like. We're going to give items. So like maybe you might earn some tickets or some bucks to like use in a student store. And we're going to do enriching and engaging activities too, right? So those are ways that we're going to motivate the behaviors that we want to see and hopefully not have the need for other sorts of maladaptive or challenging behaviors to be functional in those settings. So I highly encourage you to check out this video. It's one of my favorites, The Elephant, the Rider, and the Path. And it sort of talks about both our internal sort of systems of motivation and wants and needs, as well as the external path that gets us there and how we can work on creating a path that leads to students and that we're supporting or our own kids that we're supporting to, be able to navigate it successfully, and also the logic that goes along with that, the sort of rider that helps direct that. And so it's a great 2-minute video. Check it out. It'll be up on the Padlet and you can go ahead and click this. But motivation is really important. It's really important to incentivize behavior in some critical pieces, critical times. So if it's a new behavior or a habit, like habits are really hard to change. So, or something that's hard, like if I don't like math or I find math very difficult, I need a lot more motivation to get through it, right? If it's the next step in a chain of behavior that you're learning, or if you're trying to get mastery or proficiency in a behavior. Also, something that I think about a lot working at Bases Learning Center, our self-run school here, is that if I don't have a relationship or rapport with someone and they're like a new student comes on campus, I probably need to think about ways to motivate them to want to engage with me prior to just kind of throwing out like, hey, do this, do that. They don't know me. So that rapport factor too is huge. If you don't have that rapport, you want to find other ways to motivate. Non-contingent reinforcement is an amazing antecedent-based intervention, or we might call it a proactive strategy. And so with non-contingent reinforcement, what you're doing is infusing those motivators, infusing those likes, infusing those engaging things, and doing that at a certain level. Sometimes we do it in a ratio, like maybe every 5 minutes, I'm going to remember to go over and acknowledge that so-and-so's there, they're doing great, awesome to see you. I'm going to just infuse that environment around this kiddo with good stuff, right? With positivity, with things that are hopefully going to build that rapport, that are hopefully going to make this environment motivating to be in. Like everybody likes it when you tell them that you're glad to see them or give them acknowledgement over things that they were working hard on or things that they like. Or you might share something with them about things that they like. The new movie came out that they're they've got I had a kid, I remember every new Marvel or every new Disney movie that came out, he had the shirt on as soon as it happened. I was like, oh, there's a new one that came out. I should probably go ask him about that because maybe I hadn't watched the movie, and I bet they're going to love to talk about it. So doing those kinds of things regularly, and again, every 5, 10, 15 minutes, figure out what that ratio is for you and how you're interacting with that kid. Or other adults. It works really well to just be a positive force in somebody's life. And that's sort of a proactive strategy. If you're looking to write a behavior intervention plan, or if you're working with ABA therapy in the home, you might look at just non-contingent reinforcement as a really great place to start off any kind of plan. And a lot of it is it's so all about relationships. So there's a great resource on the Padlet, as well as on a link that's going to be in the next page for preference assessments, and reinforcement inventories are sometimes what they're called, and getting to know people's interests. You can do this by looking at what they're just kind of gravitating towards, or who, or by interviews. And I think in particular, our older kiddos, interviews are great because then it's straight from the horse's mouth. And so you get to know their likes, their dislikes, the things that they're kind of indifferent on. And they need to be conducted regularly. At Bases, we do ours quarterly because things change. There's that new Disney movie that came out, right? It also helps you look at potential reinforcers. So we think about our preference assessments and we use them to sometimes stock our student store. And also it's interesting and important, especially if you're working with kiddos maybe on the spectrum or with sensory integration issues, to think about sensory functions too. Do they like to look at certain things, hear certain things? Do they need some protective stuff for crowded or noisy environments? All those things are great to think about when you're looking at people's preferences. So here are some resources. There's that video on grit that I sort of referred to. It's good. It's good. As soon as I watched it, I was like, that totally goes in these behavior bits for this month. The reference for preference assessments that I was referring to is Captain. Their evidence-based practices modules are free and amazing, a great resource, and particularly the antecedent-based intervention was. I'm not that great at creating my own materials a lot of the time, or maybe I'm just kind of on the fly and going everywhere. So I love their brief packets. Are like, you've got data sheets, you've got reinforcement preference assessments, you've got little materials and tools that they provide to you free. So by all means, check that out. I also wanted to note that, while there's these behavioral things that are happening, there's also a lot of amazing social and emotional learning curriculum out there that really work on these relationships and motivations and those internal structures. And so this is by all means not an exhaustive list. These are the ones that I just thought up and had room for, but please feel free to check any of these out. There's some really great stuff that you might be able to use in your classroom, and you might be able to use to help really promote all that good stuff, good motivation in your classrooms. Or your life. And then here's the Padlet. So again, I said the Behavior Support Services Padlet. If you follow that link, you'll get to where all of these resources are, and you'll also see it in the newsletter, and you can look us up. And please, by all means, check out all the stuff related to motivation that's on the Padlet. Thank you so much for joining me. That's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed talking about motivation and behavior bits. Remember, if we're infusing environments, there's sometimes just not a need to do those less preferred for us behaviors, those maladaptive and not socially appropriate behaviors. So think about it that way. You're really trying to get a foot in front of it and do good by others. So anyways, it's July. Have a happy 4th. Have a happy summer. I'll see y'all again in August. Thanks so much for listening.